Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for choosing Brewski Airlines today for your model building services. Please keep your hands and arms inside the vehicle until we complete the Tyranid Wing Prime. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here is your frame for the Wing Tyranid Prime. We're using the other 50mm base here, and we're going to start by cutting out the head. This has two portions that go together. They are a little bit small and fiddly, so do be careful clipping these off. The main portion of the head with the blade, the face, all that stuff, one thing you want to be careful of is it does have a peg that you do not want to cut off. It also has an area to trim up. Basically is the back side. It's got a little flat space to it. This is how it's actually going to secure to the main body of the Tyranid Prime. So you want to be careful with that. Make sure it's going to line up flush. Definitely dry fit this. Do not go right to gluing it or attaching it unless you have dry fitted. So the detail here is not great, but basically we're going to stick this head crest right onto that peg. It's a snug fit, but it does go on. You could skip gluing this, to be honest, but again, you know my whole spiel on that. I don't want this coming apart after I've painted it and gone to all the trouble. So make sure that fits. A little bit of glue, you're off and running. Next, we're going to be cutting out the two halves of the body. These are basically the shoulders and ribs. Now again, I mentioned that back part of the head is pretty flat, fits in and helps lock this into place just like so. So you want to be careful and make sure that's trimmed. Do whatever you need to do to make sure that fits well. Dry fit for sure. Alright, now we're basically going at the main bit of the body. This is the tail, torso, spines. The two sides of the shoulders are going to go on either side of this, and the piece we just assembled with the head is basically going to go to lock all three of them together. So do clean this up, take your time. The flash on this part is not too bad. This is really the easy part of the build, honestly. Now I do apologize here, for some reason my video had cut off and I lost part of this. Basically what we have is the two shoulders now attached to the main body with the head, and we have that standing on two legs. So the legs are pretty easy. One of them has a peg, one of them does not. Really not too bad on the flash to speak of here. Left and right slot in pretty easily. I think these even have pegs to help guide, so really not too big of a deal. Okay, we're back to the build. Now we are cutting out the wings. This is where I'm going to tell you guys two things. Number one, the instructions recommend, basically at this point we just have the wings to put on and the two talons, and they say do the talons then the wings. I really found that stupid direction. The second thing is the wings have they do not clip off very cleanly. They're not attached to the frame very well. You have to do a lot of cleanup work on this, a lot more than I kind of figured you would have, unless you have like really fine nippers you can get right up in there. You're gonna have a lot of plastic either coming off the wing, which you don't want to have obviously because it'll look just damaged, or you'll have big nubs coming off the frame that you then have to trim off the wing like I'm doing here. Not a fan, not the biggest fan. You know, it's a gripe, but whatever. The talons themselves are pretty easy. These are very similar to some of the ones on the Von Ryan's Leapers, and they're really not too much to work with. There's nothing hard to get at. These are pretty easy. Just don't overbend them. Be kind of careful with them. Again, going back to the point of the instructions recommend you put these talon arms in. They have a bit of a flat piece here that fits right up into the shoulder. There's no brainer to it. The problem is you put those in, and then you have to angle the wings around them. So I actually recommend do the wings first. Do not put the talons in first. You can totally fit those over the wings. It's really hard to fit the wings under the talons. Now, they line up pretty well, but the force to push them in with the talons in place is kind of tough. Again, this is like a double, big peg, little peg. It only fits one way, and the wings are angling downward. These are a tucked position wing. This one was a little bit easier. The other one is actually harder to get in this way. I tried doing it per their instructions again, meaning talon first, then the wing. It really didn't go too well, as you guys will see. So, for the umpteenth time, I highly recommend wings first, talons after.
So the commotion, get ready for explosion, we rollin'.
Now, I'm just going to take a minute here and I'm just going to level with you guys a little bit. The posing on this model, I don't love. I don't like the wings down. I would have liked something with the wings outstretched, folded. I don't know. This just kind of looks weird. It just kind of looks odd to me that it's, just kind of sitting there. Not really in an attack pose, not really in an offensive pose, not really in a flying pose. It's just weird. And maybe this was all they could fit onto one frame. I have no idea. I'm not a miniature designer, so I probably don't have the right to complain about that. But all said and done, I mean, it's a fairly impressive model. Part of me is actually worried painting this that you're not going to be able to get at all the wings. You're going to have an interesting time, or I'm going to have an interesting time getting at the undersides, getting all the detail. But nevertheless, there is the model. Again, the only real issue is talons and wings. So again, if this has been useful to you guys, I really would appreciate it if you hit like, leave any comments with feedback or any other tricks you might have, and subscribe to see the next build. We are down to the Barbgaunts and Termagants. See you then.